Hey, this is Greg Berger, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network. Podcast good!
Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with the rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
It's my party and I'll cry if I want to!
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 11. This will start a 3-episode arc where I, TFG1Mike, along with Ender, are going to be talking about the first 3 volumes of Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, one of the current IDW ongoings.
The name of this show keeps making me feel like you're pulling me out of a hat.
The Pull Bag,
yeah. And watch this, and now it's Ender!
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, it's like, which suit of armor would you like to wear today, Ender?
Like my non-spoiler suit of armor, thank you. Spoiler stealth.
Yeah. That's a good name for armor, actually. All right, so More Than Meets the Eye. As I said last 2 episodes ago when we had you on talking about your comic book credentials, I almost said confidential. Holy crap! What the hell? Oh god!
We're establishing my Transformers comic PhD.
Yeah. Well, apparently, you are you do have Transformers ESP. How did you know we were going to do that? Who told you? Who talked to you? As I said back in episode 9 of the Pull Bag, me reading More Than Meets the Eye is all your fault because you're like, oh my god, the Shockwave origin, oh my god. So I had to go back and get all the trades and whatever else. And I wasn't sure, like, normally when I see stuff that it says it collects issues 1 through whatever, and also something else, I'm thinking the something else is going to come at the back of the book.
Right, you're talking about
not so much with this.
Yeah, the Death of Optimus Prime thing.
Yes.
Which should have been also known as IDW is full of crap. Because they're always pulling this. I'm sorry, I wasn't fazed for a moment by the hey, it says the Death of Optimus Prime. Are we gonna kill Optimus Prime? What do you think? We're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. It's obvious. Stop doing this. They need to stop saying they're going to kill Optimus Prime, and they need to stop saying they're going to kill off characters at all, frankly. And most of all, they need to stop saying the war is over. The war has ended like 12 times. When the next day you just start shooting at each other again, it's just still called the war.
That's true. That is very, very, very true.
Well, I think this is the theme. You start us out, but I think that's where we're running into in this.
Yeah, I mean, like, as a first-time reader of Transformers, I meant to tell you this in the other episode we were on, but as a kid, the only Transformers book I ever read was some scholastic children's version of a movie adaptation, but it was kind of like, hey, instead of letting you read the movie, have fun with Wheelie. Oh, God. It was some scholastic children's book that...
It was the one where you had the little bone necklace on?
I don't remember. All as I know is...
They still use that as a visual reference sometimes.
All as I know is, in it, Wheelie is talking about his parents.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I love that. I've read that.
So this
when they find Wheelie in the IDW verse, he's still wearing that little bone necklace.
Jesus Christ!
I shit you not.
Oh my God! So this technically More Than Meets the Eye, the Death of Optimus Prime one shot is my first introduction to Transformers comics as far as an ongoing. Not counting, I've read several of the different spotlights.
Certainly not the worst place he could have come in, frankly.
Yeah.
The trick is here. This is the deal. Let's just set this up a little bit where we're at when this starts, and what the Death of Optimus Prime in particular is, because it goes before More Than Meets the Eye as much as it goes before Robots in Disguise. And the deal is it's right after Chaos, which is the end of Costa's run. And I think I mentioned this last time. Costa really did the and now I will be the last Transformers writer. Like, I mean, just scorched earth kind of thing. Literally, scorched Cybertron. I mean, that's where this starts out. Like, Cybertron is a wasteland. The war is technically over. Optimus could have been dead at the end of Chaos, frankly. The way they left it, Optimus and Megatron could have been flat up dead. And everything was done. They just fought something called Decepticon. I mean, like, trying to have, like, too big a climax. Right? Just leaving nothing behind. And this is a point at which I was looking at the comics. I was excited about the new writers. I thought, like, wow, this will be much better now. Because I was familiar with their work. But what I was looking at was going, now you're going to have to dig out of this hole. At the time, when this book came out, was like, don't keep doing this. Your continuity was convoluted when Costa took over, and now it's just bad. Forget it. Reboot, please. Give these new writers a clean slate. Just give them the characters again. If there was ever a time to do it, just let it go. Just let it go. And these initial issues, and especially, the Death of Optimus Prime thing, we're just trying to answer the question, like, is this story worth telling anymore? This whole trade paper, this is what I'm saying, this is the theme we're going to keep coming back to. This whole thing is just them trying to dig out of Costa's hole. And I think 2 trade paperbacks later is really we're getting to be more out of the hole to the point where the universe is worth keeping. Mm-hmm. These are every comic in here is 10 times better than what was in Costa's run, but it's still just digging out of his hole.
See, as someone who is coming into it fresh, who's never read Costa's run, thankfully, apparently, I see this as a whole new universe. I see this as a whole new, yes, Death of Optimus Prime sets it up. Every continuity, when you're dealing with the G1 characters, at some point Optimus has to die. They have to take that jellyfish up and revive him as a zombie and then set him on fire in the sun with red spores and hate plague and whatever. Like, all of that stuff at some point in anyone's run of anything
Yeah, but he's died. You gotta understand, he's died like 4 times in this continuity, and it's been like 4 or 5 years. I mean, this. It's like I'm being a little unfair there, but not totally. But he's had revivals before. This he wakes up after the thing blew up. I mean, as far as it was left, he should have just been dead. This is just straight up like, actually, we'd really like to keep making money off these comics. That's okay, Costa, so we're just going to kind of, oh, look, he's alive. I mean, I think I brought up the, who was it? Did this to Magneto. I'm dropping comic book writer names now. I think he's doing Batman now. What's...
Snyder.
No, he's not doing it now then. Recently. He did X-Men. He had a big famous run on X-Men a couple of years back. Anyway, whoever it was did the same thing. He had literally, like, as soon as he was gone, they were like 2 issues later, they were just like, actually, that wasn't Magneto. And it's like, wow, that takes all the dramatics out of your big climactic. I mean, like, he had Magneto, like, destroy New York and blow up the school and kill everybody, and, half the cast is dead, and he screwed everything up. And they just totally were like, they might as well have said it was a dream sequence. You know what I mean? Like, they just, Marvel was like, that's cute. Thanks. Bye. We'd like to keep printing comics if that's okay with you.
I will say that, like, these first pages in Death, I so wish we could somehow, not necessarily this story, but I want Peter Cullen to say these lines. And yet, even as I considered the dark glass of an empty matrix something no Autobot should ever have to see, I knew with a soft rush of sadness that I was still alive. I want to hear that come out of Peter Cullen's mouth.
See, I see these panels and I just think, don't those halves of the Matrix look like those little glass paperweights they make that are magnifying glasses?
They do,
should just be like a little sunflower on the inside of one of those or something.
It's the words, man. It's the words.
Yeah, I know. There's better, there's some, there was a sequence in All Hail Megatron I felt like that about. He gives a speech, and I was like, somebody needs to have Peter Cullen record that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a great image I don't want to glaze over. We actually mentioned last week the original cover of Transformers #1, and the little kid who I said looked not unlike me. He's been replaced by Bumblebee, but in this version. But they did a nice, it's Livio Ramondelli, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. does this fantastic painted version of it that's sort of a homage to the original cover with Prime squishing the two planes. That's I don't know. That was a great throwback to the G1 stuff that I thought. But yeah, no, I guess I see. You're coming at it fresh. I'm having like a bias problem with this because it is literally the first. This whole speech is the first few shovelfuls of the, and now we dig our way out of the Costa hole.
Yeah.
To me, I just like there's lots of stuff in here. Even in the first few pages, I mean, there are literal little retcons to try and fix the way the universe had been messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount, this fully populated Cybertron. I mean, like that wasn't there 5 minutes ago. In fact, it wasn't possible 5 minutes ago. There's a line in here where someone says, I don't think any of us imagined there were so many. Even Prowl's estimates were off. That's because at some point, early on, I think All Hail left the universe in a good place to move forward, and Costa like totally shrank the universe down. And one of the ways he did that was, I think it was in a Prowl, maybe even in Spotlight Prowl, mentioning that there were only a few thousand Transformers left tops, so that it, or maybe even less than, just eliminating the possibility for a lot of these stories. And I think that's like sort of the first step these writers were saying. He's like, yeah, that stuff we said before that we'd sort of established as canon? Yeah, it's wrong because we don't want to write in that universe. There's lots of that going on here, and it's all over the place.
Yeah, the one thing that, if I could pick one, like, what the hell moment out of Death, it's, like, I had heard about this before, but this is my first time seeing it. Ratbat as a senator?
Oh, yeah, well, no, that's big in this. Megatron origin, that's true. And, this is the thing, too, if you read the old Marvel comics, Ratbat spends not an inconsiderable time as literally or at least one of the leaders of the Decepticons.
Oh my god.
Seriously. So Ratbat in the comics has a long history of being an important Decepticon figure.
Wow.
So that's actually not that out there.
No. I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying
that it's out there. Don't get me wrong. It was out there when they did it.
Yeah.
It's a rehash here.
It's just strange because, like, and again, my bias coming in is all as I really know are the cartoon series.
Right.
And let's face it, G1 is pretty much the only place Ratbat has ever really shown up in cartoon form. He's never really...
And not that often.
Well, he showed up in animated as a Keytar, but he didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't really do anything there. It wasn't like,
Well, Ratbat is in animated form. He's been a non-speaking character, so it's odd to see that. In the G1 comics, he was the Decepticon like Energon auditor. So he was always sort of controlling people by he was giving people crap for how much fuel they were wasting doing stuff. He'd tell people they couldn't go on missions or do things because it was going to waste too much Energon.
Oh my god!
Even Megatron on occasion, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my god.
He was the evil accountant behind the Decepticons. Sort of.
Overall, I enjoyed Death. The other kind of what the hell moment is how can he go from being Prime to Pax?
I just like that idea.
I don't.
Well, they've done this in the IDW universe so far. I hate it when Prime is Prime because someone handed him the cosmic football.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that origin for Prime. I think that's really weak. I like, if you really look at where Orion Pax come from, the name in the cartoon, by Mr. David Wise, as I recall, who writes a lot of your favorite cartoons. Everyone, I assure you.
Okay.
What he managed to do there was to make it was sort of a mythical story. Prime's a little large rising kind of thing, and that's just it. Prime comes from Orion Pax. He was built out of Orion Pax, but it's not as if Prime and Orion Pax were the same. It's not like Prime could take his helmet off and be Orion Pax again. Optimus Prime isn't a suit of armor Orion Pax is wearing. Orion Pax dies, and from him is built Optimus Prime. But
Right.
Optimus Prime doesn't exist outside of that.
Mm.
And I think, and I think that's how it should be. And that's not exactly how they've portrayed it in this universe. So it's not like this is totally inaccurate the way they're doing it.
Right.
But
It's just something
it
very
annoys
different.
me to no end at the end of this when he says, I'm going to start calling myself Orion Pax again. Like Optimus Prime is a hat he can take off. Because I think that's really inaccurate and very incorrect to the spirit of the character.
Yeah, it is. So then we jump into More Than Meets the Eye, number 1.
So yeah, now we're fine. Now we're actually properly in the comic.
Yes. And we should say, for those that don't know or those that aren't reading either More Than Meets the Eye or Robots in Disguise, basically, Death of Optimus Prime is the tree of life for these two series because it bridges them both. Because you have on one side in More Than Meets the Eye, you have Rodimus and the crew of the Lost Light going after and finding the quote-unquote Knights of Cybertron, and you have, tyrannical, dumbass Bumblebee leading stuff on Cybertron and Robots in Disguise.
Which I never...
I'm sorry, this is the worst characterization.
Well, that's it. It's Costa's Bumblebee is the problem. It's an inherited...
Okay.
I think they're trying to make the best of it. I don't know if they like it or dislike it, but they're trying to make the best of it. But the deal is that this is one of the first things that happened in Costa's run, is Prime quits and they elect Bumblebee a leader. This makes no sense on like 15 fronts. We could talk for an hour about Prime shouldn't be quitting, but I'm sorry, they're an army. They have ranks. You don't have an election when the general quits, And it just seemed like, Jazz is standing there, Prowl is standing there. I could see the two of them vying for who should be in charge. I would think Prowl wouldn't really want to be, even though he technically is second in command. I think he likes being second in command.
Yeah.
But I don't see either of them letting Bumblebee do it under any circumstances, and I don't see Bumblebee taking it either.
I don't either, and I think part of it is that, growing up on the G1 cartoon, every time you would ever see Optimus do something without the rest of the troops, either Ironhide or Jazz were in command. And there was even something in More Than Meets the Eye in part one or part 2 or whatever. Optimus Prime turns to Jazz. Well, gather a battle unit.
Jazz was portrayed more correctly in the cartoons. They literally, I think a lot of this is derived from the original, like the box descriptions and the original. All their personalities come from Bob Budiansky, who wrote the Marvel comic. So, technically, there's always been the hierarchy. Always goes Prime, Prowl, Jazz. There's been sometimes it's it's suggested that Jazz is more of a field commander than Prowl is. So even in the cartoons you see, Jazz will take a group out to go do something, but he's still outranked by Prowl.
Yeah.
In the comics it's more clear. Because they spend a lot of time with Optimus getting killed or removed, and Prowl's in charge then. Prowl is a much bigger character in all of comic bookdom than he is in the cartoon, so you kind of have to take that into account. Frankly, Bumblebee's always big, but in fact, the other thing to keep in mind, the actual real power struggles that would go on when Prime was removed in comic bookdom are between Prowl and Grimlock. Grimlock's not an idiot in the comics ever, really.
No,
he's not. He wasn't built on Earth, and I've given them small brains like real dinosaurs. Dumbest thing anybody ever says. Every time I watch the origin of the Dinobots I just want Optimus to smack him in the back of the head when Wheeljack says that. I gave them small brains like real dinosaurs. What? You what? Why would you? Oh.
Oh my god!
But so a lot of this, is the difference between seeing, the comic book normality and and the show. They have things in common, and they share a common origin, but they do diverge pretty quickly. And comic books tend to be more faithful to the comic books.
Yeah, well, yeah. So you basically have
What color is Rumble, everybody?
purple. I've always said that. It's
kind of true. It's kind of true. There's always
if you watch the cartoon, if you watch the movie, whatever, he's not blue. He is purple, and Frenzy is black and red. Just just the way it is. I don't give a crap what Hasbro says about the toys. All right, so Whether Meets the Eye, number one here. So basically, the first 3 or 4 or 5 pages of this is basically Rodimus and Bumblebee arguing back and forth about whether the Knights of Cybertron exist. Well, actually, the first 3 pages is basically that, and then about the 4th and 5th page, we see Cyclonus, who doesn't want to be a Decepticon anymore.
Oh, no, now here's the deal. Again, if you're up on your IDW, Cyclonus actually never is a Decepticon.
Oh, really?
Well, for instance, here's a couple things you need to know. Galvatron is never Megatron. Galvatron is his own character in IDW. He, Scourge, and Cyclonus were part of a crew of Transformers that left Cybertron before the war and got caught up in a whole bunch of silliness, frankly, that is I'm not going to go into.
Okay.
They were led by Nova Prime, who became sort of Nemesis Prime, and fought Optimus kind of early on. That was actually under Furman in the early parts. That was where the original spotlights all went up to. But anyway, the point being that Cyclonus is really the last person left from these people who left and ended up in all this crazy stuff. And theoretically, Galvatron is dead. Scourge is dead. Everyone else from that crew is dead. Oh, no, G-Axis, who you probably don't even know who it is still alive. He's important, but...
Yeah, I've gotten up to that point. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Spoiler-wise for anyone for reading Regeneration 1, he just showed up in there, actually.
Oh, boy.
So that's heating up. So Cyclonus literally is not a Decepticon. They view him as sort of a more enemy-ish person because he has, historically been lumped with those people or fighting with Galvatron had his own deal too. Galvatron wasn't a Decepticon. So he is just kind of his own deal. And he is separated from the war. And you see that play out in this set of comics, but even more so to come. That'll continue to come up that Cyclonus is just his own thing, which I think kind of fits for me. I really felt like, and even in the cartoons, Cyclonus had a real air of sort of the honorable Decepticon. Yeah. So like they need alignments, like in D&D. You know what I mean? There's there's chaotic Decepticons, and there's evil Decepticons, and sometimes there's just sort of honorable ones who actually do. It always struck me that somebody like Cyclonus and say like Dinobot in the Beast Wars, I think Dinobot is clearly like the descendant of Cyclonus, or at least his philosophy.
There was one episode where he and Cyclonus and Ultra Magnus and a bunch of other people went to the Negaverse and got these wacky repaint jobs.
Right.
And the whole point of the episode is Cyclonus and Ultra Magnus have the same kind of code of honor thing.
Yeah, removed from their faction problems. They're pretty much on the same page. No, I always felt like if you watch all season 3 of the cartoon that Cyclonus and Ultra Magnus are standing behind Galvatron and Rodimus, looking over the shoulder, their leaders at each other, kind of shrugging, going like, "Can you believe this asshole?" Yeah, I know. What the hell?
It's interesting.
I think mine's crazy. Like, oh yeah, mine's 12.
Mine was a part of the Breakfast Club. It's a movie reference.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, he was only part of the Breakfast Club in the movie. After that, he was Jaime from Get Smart.
Or if you really want to go strange, he also
He's almost Batman in this.
Gaudier. Gaudier played the chameleon in one of the Knight Rider episodes in season 3 of Knight Rider. I didn't even really see the actor. I just heard the voice. I'm like, well, what's Rodimus? What's Rodimus doing in Knight Rider? What the hell?
Yeah, I know. It's always weird when you pick up one of those voices. I kept noticing Chip Chase was a recurring character in Murder, She Wrote.
Oh my god.
He's her nephew.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so it weirds
None of
me
us
out.
really handicapped as long as we have alien technology.
And after all, Chip is basically the best battle computer ever for Prowl. Yeah, season 1. All right, so rewind. Where's Blaster? That's
man. You just don't know how far down the rabbit hole goes.
I just
rewind.
Okay, as a new reader reading this story, I love the story so far. Don't get me wrong, because I'm seeing characters I know, like Cyclonus, like Rodimus is Rodimus. Does Rodimus ever have a drastic turn unless they bring in Shattered Glass Rodimus at some point? But like Rodimus has always been his mainstay, happy-go-lucky kind of.
Till all are dumb.
But like the cassettes without Blaster and Soundwave, at least the main ones that we all know, it's weird to me to see them without.
Yeah, but here's you got to let a lot of the show go here for a couple of reasons. One, you're like 2 continuities removed from it. I mean, you're really out there. 2, with this comic, what this really does well, for anything I'd criticize even these initial issues for, A, the dialogue's great. But B, as much as I'm a giant Prime fan and all, Transformers is an ensemble cast. And what these comics really do, especially this set, the other one has more main characters in it, Bumblebee, Starscream, Prowl. This has its share, but if you look at the cast of this, it's much more eclectic, and it does what things like Last Stand of the Wreckers, which you should read, by the way,
Yes,
do. What the Transformers are really good for, which is it has a really diverse cast that you can really pull on, and you can just spend 100 issues talking to people who have nothing to do with the main plot. I don't think, they have Rodimus and Ultra Magnus and Ratchet here, but, frankly, I wouldn't even say they need them to keep this going. Let's face it, Swerve is holding half of this book up.
I was just going to get to that. Oh my god. I want to just punch him in the face.
But don't you love wanting to punch him in the face?
Yes, but Swerve is like...
What's he say? Like, my nickname at the Academy was Shut the Hell Up.
Yeah. Like the writing in these books, like James Roberts, he knows what the hell he's doing. He knows these characters. He's creating something that is so well written.
I'm still in the middle of it. I'm literally reading a fan fiction book that Roberts wrote before he did this. Or at least Rung, the character he's made up here, is mentioned. So he's been thought about for a while.
Oh my god! Like
James Roberts is great. I mean,
yeah.
This is probably if not this is one of the best writers we've ever been graced with in the Transformers empire. So we're really doing well here. I mean, for anything you can complain about of the timing of it and the whatever and the outside influences that are affecting it, this dialogue is great. These books are fun to read. Every single one of these is worth reading. So as much as I'm complaining about the timing of the thing and the having to dig their way out of a hole, I wholeheartedly recommend every page of this.
Oh yeah, no. When I first got all 3 of these, I so silly. Apparently, my comic book shop, their ordering system, Volume 1 was on back order. I have no idea how the hell that happened. So a buddy of mine, Jeremy Fine, he so graciously gave it to me as a belated birthday present for Volume 1. The problem was I had been sitting here waiting for Volume 1 to come in through the comic shop. I've been sitting here with Volume 2 and 3. I'm like, no, I can't pick these up. I have to wait until Volume 1 comes in. I'm not going to start in the middle of the damn story. And I picked up Volume 1 and it came in the mail and whatever else. I came back, to my apartment and I sat down. It took me maybe, I don't know, hour and a half to read technically the 4 issues that are in Volume 1, because Death is the 4th issue. You know, it's like, it went by so fast and it was so fun. It's like all these characters just, everything that each one of them does is just so awesome.
Yeah.
And the lines are, it's just...
Well, this is what they should always have been. I mean, that's what they're like, you know, you got these great writers now, just let them start over. Don't make them dig out. And they do dig out. They do dig out. At this point, I would never suggest you should reboot just to...
No.
But at the time, it was like, oh, come on. Why make them explain? Remember, I don't want to know why it sucks. Just make it stop sucking, right? They have to keep explaining why it doesn't suck anymore. I kind of feel like it's the only downside is like, hey, this thing that's really cool now, here's why it doesn't suck like they said it did yesterday. It's like, why make them do that?
So far through the first issue here, the only thing I really had an issue with when I read this was the time jumps between the Lost Light and wherever the hell Tailgate came from. Like,
it's a little hard to see. That's if you had the background a little straighter, it would be easier because Tailgate comes from when Cyclonus is from.
Okay.
The ship he's trying to get to see the launch of,
right,
is Cyclonus' ship that left.
I got you.
The war in this version has gone on for 4 million years. Okay.
Yeah.
These guys left 6 million years ago. And that's when Rung fell in his hole. And the time jump thing, that is a little confusing, I agree. But, like I said, it comes off clear if you understand what's going on, in a backstory sense. Every time he says, he's like, this would go faster if I wouldn't keep shutting down. He thinks he's shutting down every, couple of seconds for a few seconds and waking back up. That's probably 600,000 years. 400,000 years, 1.5 million years, and then he wakes up for a few seconds, and then he finally gets to it, and then that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I was reading in the back of this thing. I guess initially Tailgate was supposed to be Power Glide.
Well, thank God he's not Power.
Yeah, I don't think that would have worked.
Never.
Well,
cared Power.
Yeah, well, and I think this sort of pathetic version of Tailgate is much funnier than Power Glide would have been.
Yeah, because Power Glide's too much of an ego,
right? And
plus, you have that whole robot human bestiality thing from
good
the girl.
That's that premise is bad, but that episode is hysterical.
God,
it's one of those things you gotta go beyond if you can just forget about that part of the premise. Think of all the things that happen in that, Soundwave electrocuting himself, Megatron blowing all that stuff up by accident. I mean, it's a riot.
Moving into basically issue 1 of this is basically them, as I said before, basically Bumblebee and Rodimus arguing whether the Knights exist and whether Rodimus and the crew.
Just take a moment to think of how wrong the statement "Bumblebee and Rodimus arguing" is. Doesn't that just sound ridiculous?
Okay, well, Bumblebee and
no. Just Bumblebee arguing with. I don't know. I mean,
all right. Well,
Rodimus. I mean,
I'll put it to you this way: Rodimus arguing with Goldbug. There you go.
That's no better. Goldbug, dude. Goldbug's his own character in these. Goldbug is not Bumblebee.
This is just all the information
maneuver there.
You're giving me is giving another friend of mine even more information and backup for his argument that Megatron is not Galvatron and vice versa. Oh God. Specifically to the film, Megatron is Galvatron and vice versa. Astro Train even says it while they were the same guy. Yeah.
We can have a discussion about that. I don't think now's the time.
No, not at all. So going into issue 2, the cover.
Holy crap. I just noticed Skylinks was in here. Did you notice Skylinks
You're
was in
just now noticing that?
I missed that. They mentioned him at one point, but they don't show him. But I love this little... let's see, where are the divisions between books in here? I forget. Okay, there's a... I love the... I thought you said you had a plan.
I know. That's
I love the way the heads are looking, because Bumblebee's looking at him while he's saying, I thought you said you had a plan. And when the boom goes off, Bumblebee's looking at the explosion and Prowl's not.
The whole writing thing between...
This is why you have to read Last Stand of the Wreckers, and you have to read, there's one of the All Hail Megatron codas with Prowl. Prowl is hysterically evil. It's like always doing something like that.
The writing in this is like Transformers with Who's on... I swear to God, this is Transformers on Abbott and Costello. The writing in this is just so comical.
Say Who's on first? Yeah, you know, it's Transformers mixed with Red Dwarf. And I'm not kidding. Literally, I can cite you the points that's true. I mean, like even the Tailgate's time frame thing. It's like 6 million years. It's Red Dwarf. They're lost in space. It's Red Dwarf. There's been a few things, and you know, Roberts is British. I think he's seen Red Dwarf. I think it's pretty clear.
The cover for issue number 2 of More Than Meets the Eye, cover A. I'm looking at this for like I'm really looking at this now that I'm holding it in my, because normally like when I see that's
You're
nice.
Noticing while we're looking at this, you know, it's like
it's one of those things where I noticed it before.
Prowl's little head things in those shots.
Yeah, I know.
Freaking me out.
I noticed it before, but what I'm noticing now, specifically because I've been on an Iron Man kick, I've been watching Armored Adventures on Netflix, and of course,
I love Armored Adventures.
Oh yeah, well, that's a discussion for another day. But my point here is, look at Rodimus. I swear to God, the Hot Rod Red is just it's an Iron Man suit.
It is.
If you look at his ribs and like his thighs, the whole red around his, I hate to say this, the whole red around his crotch, it looks just like an Iron Man suit.
It does. Well, gee, I wonder why. You know, I mean. Oh yeah. Well, you know, that influence. That's a big influence on the robotic imagery of our day. It's funny because we're just talking about those Prowl things above his eyes. The way these are drawn, those are his friggin' eyebrows, man. He's like, that's not a crest. He's just that pissed all the time.
Oh,
he's always looking at you like that.
Okay, sure. The first time, well, okay, not counting Scourge, because Scourge had a goatee, but not counting Scourge from G1, the first time I ever really noticed facial hair on Transformers was with Shattered Glass Rodimus toy from BotCon 08. And now that's a
Spock joke, of course.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
That's why.
And the whole thing now in the comics, at least from what I've been reading and from what I can tell, is like the eyebrows are like just one way to tell if a character is going to be, devious or evil or whatever. It doesn't matter whether you're Autobot, Decepticon. You can, take a look at Swerves. Swerve will, do anything underhanded and sneaky to get around Ultra Magnus's rules, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
God.
Of course, we're going to talk about eyebrows. The real eyebrow culprit is Rung.
Oh, God, yes.
Rung's eyebrows are like the tick's antenna. They're like all over the place. I like them, but it's hysterical.
And now I have to go find a spoon clip.
I want a voice cast for this, and I'm thinking Rung is probably like David Tennant or something. But
that's yeah.
All right, so let's. I mean, we get lost in space, and
pretty much, yeah. Danger, Rodimus, danger! No, that doesn't work as well. Yeah, Rung is creepy looking. He besides his eyebrow, just his whole face. I don't dislike him. He's a cool character. He's a funny character, but
he gets better too.
Oh yeah. And the fact that he's the psychologist and he's unhinged himself.
Yeah.
That's a.
He does a good psychologist. I wonder if Roberts has some training or something, because he really sounds like a psychologist, doesn't he? It's like, that's suddenly insightful. Good Lord, man. But let's see. So yeah, now this is again, now they're trying to find their footing. This is all, there's lots and lots of Let's find our footing. And they're reestablishing all these characters. They're, and when I say reestablishing, in a lot of cases, I mean they're giving them one. Because, for the last, 3 years or something, I don't know, they were all like a background color to Spike. I swear to God.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Well, I will say one thing for the Transformers comics, at least. There are no humans in space.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, that's one of the things Scorched Earth-wise. I mean, why we're in space and we're on, burnt-out Cybertron? Is because we have ruined Earth forever. Seriously. I hope this continuity should never have another comic on Earth. They ruined Earth forever. If I were I think the Autobots would be liable to come back and wipe out the human race.
Oh, so Unicron...
They alternate between us being humans are so cool and actually we're such shits they couldn't even hang out on our planet anymore.
So you mean to tell me Unicron isn't the center of the Earth?
Unicron was the center of the shark tank that show was jumping over. That's what Unicron's at the center of. Transformers Prime jumped the Unicron tank. It's like the Shark Tank, except it has two little horns sticking out of it instead.
Oh, God. So then you've got... so we've got this whole thing where Tailgate jumps time and space and whatever. I don't know, maybe he found a TARDIS somewhere or something.
Essentially, I mean, I think there are some elements that were left over. They wanted to establish more characters. Mm-hmm. So we sort of have, we have the Death of Optimus Prime thing. Then we have the launch issue where it goes wrong.
Right. And
so they spend that whole issue launching and establishing some characters. But then there's just more stuff to establish. Like I said, it's all digging. We gotta get more. They need a cast. These friggin' Transformers comic books didn't have a cast of any really sensible variety. And even the leader Bumblebee thing is inherited, like I said. But besides that, I mean, I think Robots in Disguise is the more logical progression. If there weren't two books that were going on right now, Robots in Disguise is much more where this would have been going. This is like a total sideline. And Robots in Disguise is great too. I mean, John Barber does a great job over there. I don't want to diminish it, but I'm just saying this is really setting up its own little... It's spending so much time setting up its own universe. Like I said, it should have just been its own thing. But instead, they're still okay, now we're going to take all these characters from this other thing and introduce them this way.
Well, I like that because it gives you a choice. It gives you, as the reader, a choice. Do you want to read the, Space Winnebago adventures with Rodimus and the crew of the Lost Light, or do you want to read the, political tirades of Bumblebee on Cybertron? I mean, that,
You should just be reading both. I hate to break it to everybody. They're both really good.
If somebody wants to gift me the Robots in Disguise trades, P.O. Box. So we've got Rodimus facing off with Cyclonus, and it's so strange for me to see these characters interact, but I love what Roberts is doing with the writing.
Yeah. He's making it work. He's taking these disparate characters, he's making something out of it.
Yeah.
And this whole trade is them building this universe and just trying to keep just enough action to make it seem like they're not just sitting around talking about each other. Yeah. Which is okay. The thing is, frankly, I feel like to some degree there's this input. They feel like they have to have this certain amount of action all the time. And I think at least for an adult reader, it's not as true. I was talking about one of the more recent issues lately, and I said it was this is, as opposed to the ubiquitous, giant robots hitting each other, this is a comic book that is giant robots talking to each other about their feelings.
Yeah. And it's so hilarious because, comics, at least ongoing comics, for however long, this and Robots in Disguise and whatever else will go on, they can tell you a consistent story because you don't have, don't get me wrong, I love all the Transformers United States-based cartoons in their own each individual right. I enjoy them all, but because of
But half of
television
them suck.
and here we go. It's a discussion for another day.
I enjoy them as what they are, but half of them suck. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy them. But I mean,
my point here is you don't have a ratings grab. You don't have, oh, it has to be super popular. Yes, you do have that with, oh my God, what are the sales and if the but I have never seen, to my knowledge, a comic book just end without wrapping any. You know what I mean? I could be wrong, but what I'm saying is specifically to More Than Meets the Eye. Once a month, we get an issue of this awesome story, or once every 6 months, we get a trade collection of whatever issues it collects. And it's a fluid, ongoing story, whereas a cartoon series might only get 13 episodes, 27 episodes.
Right, it's much more limited because you can't. You can get, like, if you're gonna kill your comic, you can usually get one last issue out to wrap things up as best you can, and to whatever varying degree of success that might work. But when making one more cartoon episode is like, okay, well, all we need to do is whip up $470,000 and take up 6 months, and then we'll be fine. I mean, it's just not that cheap to fire that process up.
Not at all.
But
and I love Ultra Magnus in this. Ultra Magnus versus Cyclonus.
Yeah.
Oh God. What is the deal with Whirl? Oh my God, that character is so
They just need to break down and paint him like Deadpool.
He is so creepy.
I want a Deadpool Transformer, like, straight up. I think they should just have him in here for no reason because he's in every comic. It's just like be full size Transformer size Deadpool, turn into, I don't know, Whirl. I don't know, but
yeah.
It's really, it's like, why are you an Autobot? It's like, well, it turns out it doesn't actually matter. The other thing that really matters is what number of the opposite side you kill. So whichever little face you kill more of, you're the other. It doesn't matter how or why. That's what your faction comes from.
And I love that they finally made a character with the name Skids that actually is cool. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, I wondered why I bought one of these when it was like a Classics at Toys R Us. Okay. Now it makes sense. No, Skids is awesome in here.
Yeah, Skids is.
And there's get the little Doctor Who-y thing going on with the sign behind him. What's it say? You haven't escaped. They're all around you. He doesn't see it. He's still holding the blowtorch. So no, these are great. It's good, and it's setting up for something better. And it is it's abrupt. It's weird that it has to spend all this time doing what it's doing. But it's a great.
And I love how dramatic still, and this reminds me of G1 with Red Alert. The end of this issue, the end of More Than Meets the Eye number 2. That's Prowl talking to Rodimus, right? Red Alert for you. He sounds a bit agitated. Red, what's the... Slow down, I can't make out what you're saying. What? What's not your fault?
At the end of the day, Red Alert is most famous in the canon for losing it.
Yeah,
that was his big episode. It was like, next week, kids, Red Alert loses his shit. That's like what he does.
And then Inferno has to save him, and the ambiguously certain duo head off into the... Anyway.
Yeah, you just read a little further, pal.
Well, I have... All right, I've made this statement
keep
many times.
Keep turning those pages.
Okay, listen. This is for your purposes only. Everybody else pretty much knows I've said this. On the original podcast I did, TFG1 podcast, when I got to the episode with the Neo nerd, whatever, not the Negator or Negavator or whatever the hell it was, Negaduck, I don't know, whatever the hell, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
I swear to God, between Red Alert and Inferno and Hoist and Grapple in G1, those are the 4 gay Transformers in that cartoon. I have nothing against gay people. I know several gay people that are friends of mine. They're awesome people. I have nothing against that lifestyle, but I just find it so strange that
Well, that's what happens when you turn your continuity into an intergalactic titanium sausage fest.
so we need more fembots,
Yes.
basically.
Well, they're
All
like
right.
verboten in IDW, so it's like, well, okay. Nice.
Issue 3, the cover A. That's interesting. Everybody's in a force shield.
Yep, that's
I
it.
didn't know Trailbreaker was in this issue.
Oh yeah, Trailbreaker and his force field. They make lots of fun of that force field too.
Yes, they do. Oh man,
The one-trick pony. It's true. I love in this issue. There's a great little panel of Tailgate asking Cyclonus about the war, and of course Cyclonus only knows marginally more about it than he does. And basically, his description, it's like, yeah, it sounds like they were all a bunch of assholes shooting at each other. You know? It's like totally morally ambiguous view of the war. Like, so there were these jerks who didn't like what these other jerks were doing, and then there were these second set of jerks who didn't like how those jerks were dealing with those jerks. And as far as I can tell, they both got rid of the first set of jerks, but they never stopped being jerks to each other.
So the last issue ended with Red Alert basically going off and yelling in Rodimus's ear, saying, "There's a Spark Eater on board." And this one kind of starts off with, "Did you hear me? I said there's a Spark Eater on board." The next 4 panels is basically frame Rodimus, close-up frame Rodimus, close-up again frame Rodimus, zoom in 10 times Rodimus, snicker, cool.
It's like, and this is where we begin to discover that perhaps Rodimus is not a very good leader.
He's off his rocker.
Till all are dumb. Oh, yeah. I say that almost as many times as Rodimus actually says till all are one.
Yeah.
Which means like 4 or 5 times a day. Yeah, no, it's just, he's looking for like adventure and opportunities to go be cool. Things that are going wrong, he's like, yes, I can go shoot at that. It's like, that's not what we're going for.
Yeah. I love how they in the next panels when you've got, I believe it's Chrome Dome and Rewind. I believe it's Chrome Dome that says, "See, after they die, the details tend to get a little sketchy." And then outside of the yellow at the bottom of that panel, it's all black and white. It's basically pencil.
It's a sketch.
I know.
It's
it looks cool. It looks really, really cool, and I love that they did that with the art.
Yeah, no, it totally works. I loved it.
Yeah.
Remember Cyclonus and Gimpy, which is gonna be an ongoing developing thing.
Cyclonus and the Gimp.
There's another, yeah. Now there's another thing. They send them all into these, to go bunk up with somebody. There's another Red Dwarf thing because you have all this roommate humor.
Yes.
They're setting up for all this roommate humor. And then Swerve finds his bar. We all knew this was going to the bar.
I love what happens later, which we'll talk about next week, where they keep asking him, "So has Ultra Magnus found out about this yet?" And Swerve's like, no, it's all right. Even when he does find out, he'll be cool.
Retentive Magnus, yeah.
Have you met Ultra Magnus yet, Swerve? Come on. He's got a gun so far up his ass, it's not even funny.
Well, what do you expect? Swerve. If you were Swerve, you wouldn't be able to look over your shoulder either.
That's.
We expect the guy who keeps his insignia on his crotch. So.
Oh man, we're.
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah, this.
I don't think so.
This.
What do you think of the Spark Eater?
It's interesting. I think it's because, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. Like as a kid, I used to think that the Sharkticons were more than what they actually were in the movie. No shit. Not, 7, 8, 9 years old in elementary school. My friends and I used to go around pretending that we were Autobots, and somebody would be a Sharkticon, and it was basically a Transformers version of tag. Whoever the Sharkticon was the person that would have to tag people, and basically once you're tagged, you become a shark. It's basically a combination of Sharkticons.
A themed game of tag.
And then, well, it's the Sharkticons mixed in with the Hate Plague. Basically, whoever you touch becomes one of you.
You must have had more fanboy friends than me. I don't think I could have pulled that off.
At least so.
I usually stuck playing tag.
Well,
I like the sound of this, but it sounds like a personal problem.
Oh God! Oh boy! They spend a lot more time out of the armor. Oh wait, sorry. That's what you get, jerk. All right, so
A spoiler or a nauseator? I'm just.
I'm just giving you enough without actually doing anything. So yeah, the Spark Eater, I think it's cool. It's interesting. It's. I mean, what else are they going to do on this ship?
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's like, and now we need something to do while we're having our character development.
I know. I mean,
isn't that kind of the?
I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting development, and I really love how basically
spending a lot of time trying to ID the ships that Rung has.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I love how they give, like, in certain elements, in certain pages, they'll say the Lost Light, or they'll say this, or they'll to give you the location. I love how basically on one of the pages, it's on the previous page, someone said something about where something is, and then the next page is quote ... Rung's office, and then it's just Rung. I just can't see a Transformer having an office. I just don't.
I can. He's a psychiatrist.
I know. It's one of those
anthropomorphized robots. The more like us they are, the more interesting they are. The less like us they are, the less interesting they are.
That's true.
No one gives a crap about giant robots from outer space. People only give a crap about what we would be like if we were giant robots from outer space. And that's the big truth of this book. They are more and more like us every page.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you look at the next page here, where Rung and Skids are. Thanks for the save. How did you know I was in trouble? The terrified screams kind of gave it away, and I don't want you to panic you further. But
I love him jumping out of there because he just crawled. He was like, "Why are you crawling to the ceiling?" He was like, "No reason." And 5 minutes later, he's popping out of the ceiling. Come here.
No. It's just like this book. Oh God, I swear it's all comedy, and I think where it gets
it's like
darker,
a Transformers comic that's worth
reading.
What the hell? I thought that wasn't allowed. It's like some Hasbro memo somewhere. It's like, must be boring advertisements for toys. Which they're trying to get back to. I hate to break it to everybody, but
jeez. But yeah, no. These first 3 issues of More Than Meets the Eye. Even if I hadn't read Death of Optimus Prime, which I recommend everyone before you even, if you're even considering getting into More Than Meets the Eye, get this Volume 1 trade with the Death of Optimus Prime, so you can kind of see the setup.
Really, you could. What stinks is if you're going to read Robots in Disguise, you should probably get this and read the Death of Optimus Prime first too.
Yeah.
Frankly, you should read this before reading Robots in Disguise Volume 1 because lots of, what happens in Robots in Disguise happens after the Lost Light leaves, and it plays a part in what's going on. They talk about it. Big things happen as a result of them thinking the ship is blown up. So it all really ties together. And I'm sure it's going to tie back together. So anyone who thinks they're getting away from reading Robots in Disguise is mistaken.
Yes.
Well, not that sadly, because when you do have to get around to reading it, which you probably will, it's worth reading. They're good too. There's lots of fun, Starscream and Prowl being mean to each other.
Yeah.
Bumblebee crying in the corner.
In the fetal position, yes. What I love about the IDW books is that
Bumblebee curls up into the fetal position, isn't he just a Volkswagen Bug? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Seems kind of redundant.
Yeah. What I love about the IDW books, and a lot of I've gotten several DC trades before, and I love, this is why I love trades, is because you have, certain things in trades that you don't get in single issues, like additional cover arts and stuff like that. What I love about the IDW books, because they don't necessarily have to do this, but they do this to just show you guys and what you're going on. You have, the meet the crew pages and stuff, and I think that's great, where you have little character bios for each of the characters that are in the book, and then of course
I think that's a little bit of a throwback to the UK Transformers comics would have those sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
And then of course you have the alternate covers at the back, like the 2 alternates for Death of Optimus Prime. Well, they're not alternates, but
alternate covers, the bane of Transformers comic book collecting. The double, Dreamwave books I have. I'll probably send you a spare copy of the first 2 series of those, just because I have 6 covers of each of them. It was the only thing keeping Dreamwave in business, man. Let me tell you.
That's so funny. But I love seeing all the different covers, and that's, again, one of the reasons why I would more so, even though currently I am getting the single issues that, I'm not reading them, obviously, but I make absolutely no sense. I'm buying comics that I'm not reading because I haven't caught up yet.
Oh, yeah, because none of us have ever done that.
Well, it's one of those things where it's by the time I get to the point where we are now, issue 15, 16, 17, I will have obviously already read the back issues in the trades, and I don't want to have to wait until the Volume 4 trade comes out, right, whenever it's supposed to come out, so it's
yeah, I don't want to be behind, yeah. Here's what I look at these covers now that you were talking about, that Death of Optimus Prime cover A, where it's the toy.
The toy.
I love it. It's a beat up one too.
I know.
It's missing some stickers. It's kind of dirty. The chrome's messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's very awesome. It's so
see the
and
paint
that's what I love
dinged off of the die cast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. And like I said, that's what I love about the trades, is that you don't have to worry about, like you said, tracking down and buying all the variant covers, where at least in these trades they're going to put them in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got a lot of stuff. Sometimes I've replaced some stuff I have in comics and trades because they're so much easier to go through. Anything I actually mean to read more than once. I mean, you can take your trades and put them on a bookshelf, and they sit there, and you can figure out which one you want to pluck off. All these, I got a bunch of bagged and boarded comics. I mean, even if you got them organized properly, it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the
okay, I've read 20 pages. Now I gotta slip this thing back and tape the thing down, go find where it goes. Go read. I mean, it's half as much time as it took to read the book.
Yeah. That's what I'm essentially going to do with Batman, and I know we're talking Transformers at this point, but with Batman, I'm going to get the Court of Owls, the Night of Owls, the City of Owls to get those first issues, and then I'm also going to get the Death of the Family trade and all that stuff, and then as I get that, I'm just going to trade in this. I'm just going to take the single issues up to the shop and just say, hey, give me store credit or whatever.
You know what, when I was catching up with my IDW to start out with, everybody, don't underestimate your library system. They, if your local library doesn't have it, one of the nearby ones will, and they'll import it for you.
Yeah.
And you can get it. I read a whole bunch of those like that, and I moved recently, and I just checked out my new library, and they have 2 aisles full of, it's in the graphic novels section of trade paperbacks. I don't know where to start. frankly. And they're like, okay. He's like, just read
Yeah.
every comic book ever now. But a lot of these things, you could catch up right quick and not pay anything for it.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of like,
Remember when we were in school, everybody, and they taught us about the Dewey Decimal System? Just go to the library. There'll be a little computer. You type in Transformers or Batman or whatever strikes you, and you'll be up to your butt in it before you know what you're doing. So.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, a few, you at least 3 or 4 years ago, I had this, like, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 DVD collection between TV shows and actual movies. And, over that time since then, I've had financial hardships where I've had to sell off all of my DVDs and stuff. And it's just one of those things. Whereas now I'm doing all right, I'm doing good, but I have no interest in acquiring a DVD collection again. Comics, however, I don't mind doing. It's kind of like the.
Well, I love having my little reference library. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Because that way you don't have to worry about checking it out every 2 weeks, and you can only check out 3 or 4 at a time. So it's like, and that's I agree with you, because most likely once more of the Batman trades come out and more of the other trades come out, I will just take my singles up and just say, hey, just give me store credit and we'll go from there. Unless it's a single issue that I absolutely love the cover of, I'm more than happy to trade it in to get a full-on trade paperback. Because it's more complete. And as a lot of people are saying, they're
written for the damn things anyway.
Yeah, they are. You've said it. Other people I know have said it.
It's just clear.
The way that they're writing is that, like, it was like I was mentioning last episode of the Pull Bag with the difference between a single issue and a trade is a trade has no, other than like the ads at the back, it has no ads in between the stories. Whereas a single issue, turn a page, here's part of the story, turn a page, oh, here's an ad for Jeff Johns, Green Lantern, whatever the hell. You know what I mean? It's
I was reviewing a comic on Full Metal Hero the other day. The way I opened it up, it was like, man, you know what? The problem with this comic is it reads, it's right after a big story arc, and it just reads like the first 22 pages of a trade paperback. Yeah, never mind. It's fine. It's just like you just have to expect it. I mean, and if you have to expect it in the comic itself, then there's a certain degree of like, okay, it's just how things are. It's like I'm not going to downgrade this issue. It's like this is a bad issue because it reads like the first 22 pages of a trade. It is the first 22 pages of a trade. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's like what am I complaining about? It's all setup and exposition. It's how things work now. It's not like the writer had an option, but to really do that. It's purposeful. If they were doing it on purpose, it's silly to criticize them for it. If they do it badly, that's one thing. But if just for doing it in general, for writing a book like to be the beginning of a story, well, that's what it is. That's how it works now.
Yep, and it is pretty awesome for the most part.
It's awesome when you're just reading the trades.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
It's a good way to keep up with it. Like I said, we talked about this before, and this may not be good for the industry and the whatnot, but for my own purposes, I wish they'd just come out with a trade every 4 or 6 months.
Yeah.
I'll just go cough up the $15-20 and read that. Because at least I'll get the complete story. I mean, I was reading some of those. Even worse, they have some of these online only things that are like 11 pages long. And they're only $1, and they come out good in the trade again. But when you're reading them, it's like by the time you're like, okay, that's cool. Oh, it's over. Okay, fine. And it's just like, why do I have to endure that? I'd rather have paid you for the whole thing and just read it. What's the point of dragging this out at this? Is this really a valid media thing, or is it just a 60-year-old bad habit? So
yes, that's exactly what it is. A 60-year-old bad habit. Oh man.
So what's our verdict here? We're talking about we got this.
Volume 1, the Death of Optimus Prime. I liked I like Death of Optimus Prime, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be, because it says it's advertised as Death of Optimus Prime one shot. So I figured, basically, I figured they were basically going to just take the screen grabs from Transformers the movie, and like, I don't know. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, they're basically just going to reenact what happened in Transformers the movie. And then no, it's an actual I like it. It's interesting. It's probably not something that I would go back.
Much to learn of the comics verse, my son.
Yeah, yes, I know. I like it. I think more than meets the eye. At least the first 3 issues are. The writing is so damn good. The comedy is amazing. The art is interesting, to say the least. I'm getting used to it because this is the first time, as I've stated many times in the last hour and 20-something minutes, that I've never read Transformers stuff before, and this is my beginnings, and I like the art. I think that the artists are doing a damn good job with it. The characterizations are well done. I'm still interested. I know on a ship, I seriously doubt we will ever see Rodimus's alt mode, but I'm interested to see what it might be.
No, it's in here.
Is it? I must have missed it then.
Do they have page numbers in these damn things? I think it's in the second one. I think it's in the second issue. Early on. Yeah, like right after the covers. He's driving alongside Ultra Magnus.
Alright, well, I will have to find it after we finish this, because
he's kind of car looking. He's got, except his front tires are visible on the outside.
Oh yeah, no. I've got it right here. Yeah. Yeah, that's Rodimus. Well, that's Hot Rodimus at least.
Yeah.
Well, at least he's not a space Winnebago.
He didn't get physically changed that when he became Rodimus. He was dubbed Rodimus by Prime at one point for going and finding the Matrix. After, like, Starscream lifted it. But, well, Megatron ripped it out of his chest, and then Starscream lifted it. But
yes, Galvatron, there is a Decepticon Matrix of leadership. Oh, wait, that didn't happen.
There's a Decepticon Matrix of leader something, but it ain't ship.
Alright, so I think we're going to wrap this up. That was More Than Meets the Eye Volume 1. I'm loving it so far. I would, if I was going to give this a star rating, I would probably give it 5 stars. Simply the first 3 issues of More Than Meets the Eye. Death of Optimus Prime is maybe a 3 out of 5 stars for me.
Like I say, it's pure digging. It's pure digging out of the hole.
Yeah.
But I agree with the rest of it. More Than Meets the Eye in general, I'm 5 out of 5, and it's, you know, the writing,
yeah,
combined with some and the art is great too. But
no, the art is amazing. It just is.
What's worth showing? I mean, you can have I've read a great many comic books with great art and poor writing, and that just makes poor comic. So well, I don't want to discount the art. The art is great, but what's really the showcase here is the writing, the character, the comedy, the dialogue. It's just worth reading. It's worth reading. If you read comic books and you're not going to read this, I don't know why you read comic books.
Yeah.
It's just quality.
And apparently I have to go get the Robots in Disguise Volume 1. Yay.
I'll send you a list. You're screwed.
So next week we will be continuing our Transformers discussion when we review More Than Meets the Eye Volume 2, which has issues 4 through 8, I believe. It's over there on my reading
And then when we get to 3, the comic won't be the only thing with issues.
Shh. If you don't want me to spoil that one thing you're waiting to go see, don't even think about spoiling my reading.
I said nothing. I'm just
yes,
it was a vague threat. It's a vague threat.
Vague threat.
It's a vague threat.
I'll give you a Centurion vague threat. Oh, all right. So for the pull bag, I have been TFG1Mike, and you are.
I'm still Ender.
And we will catch you next week. Keep reading those comics.
Pathetic fools! There's no escape! You just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, GCRN's comic book review podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you were leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can send us an email, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @GeekCastRadio. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.